Okay, so I'm going Facebook Live with Stuart Tan. Hi, Stuart.
Hey, John. Good to see you. Those of you who are on the Community of Growth page, a big shout out to you guys because this is a big surprise. I did not really sort of like plan for it and announce it, but we have Jonathan Quek in the house.
Hi,
Rockstar.
guys. Good to see you.
In business. And, John, one of the things I've polled my audience is I've told them, hey, look, there's plenty of gurus out there talking about business and what to go on and so on. But I find that after listening to some of your talks and webinars, because I was sold to the whole idea, as you can tell. For those of you who have not yet encountered John, he's a very clear thinker. I think I like the simplicity by which he brings concepts through. It's not like a motivational, inspiring thing, but by the fact that you're doing certain things leads to some kind of motivation and inspiration on your own, which I think is a fantastic thing. So I was in your class earlier on and quite blown away by some of the concepts that you thought of. I think it's good value because it means that you have been thinking about these things. Unlike some other people who are just following some other model. So kudos to you, man, and your team. I think it's a fantastic start of the experience.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. So I just wanted to get on this call with you because I know that there are a lot of people who are, you call it struggling or stagnating or whatever it might be at this point of time. There is so much at stake when it comes to this thing called crisis. So rather than talk about COVID-19, I'm just wondering, I mean, I heard some stories about your past experiences with crisis. What would you say that you learned from your previous crises? And if you could maybe, I mean, we don't need the juicy details, but if you can elaborate on certain things. I'm curious about the mindset of somebody who gets out of a crisis quickly. And I think you are one of those who exemplify that. So if you could just shed a little bit of light on that, please.
Yeah, sure. Went through business for the past 10 years. Still very young in business. So I do not have to call myself a guru yet. I'm still learning every single day. And throughout my entire career, went through several business crises, from legal suits to business breakups to had to lock myself up for a couple of months, not allowed to do anything. I would say that the biggest problem about crisis is when you're first into it and when emotions are high, no matter how smart you are, your logic is pretty low. So so even during this crisis, the first thing I had to do was I had to really take care of my emotions. I firmly believe that even at this point of time, I had the privilege and honor to train many amazing entrepreneurs out there, many of them who I truly admire. And my team members sometimes do ask me, they say, no, why do you think they need our training? And the reason is simple. The reason is when you have a business where you're bleeding $500,000 a month, right? No matter how smart you are, suddenly it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think over here, what I'm able to do is I come in as a strategist role. I run my business myself. I run businesses where I've grown to 100 million ringgit annual revenue. And I know this, everyone needs a coach. Everyone needs someone at the side, a strategist who has no emotional attachment involved to give you their perspective from a logical standpoint. Yeah,
but also that means that you're, although you say that people need a strategist, I think you come across not so much like a strategist, but more like someone who's walked the path before, some form of a mentor, right? And I mean, for some people, it's like, mentor, how can a young person be a mentor? I think that's ridiculous. I think that's a mindset that people need to get rid of. The idea is that you have actually some skin in the game, if I read you correctly, right? Whereas we were talking about this on your session this morning. We were talking about how some gurus, people who are very well known actually, who are in the process of just simply squeezing from the marketplace, right? And trying to skim everybody off whatever last dollar or last penny they may have left. How did you come to this stability of even wanting to be, the guide by the side and to help businesses to go along with the flow? What was that mentality? Where did that come from?
it really came from my personal experience. I still remember when I was relatively young in business. I was in my mid-20s when I started my first business, 25. And I remember this. There was a time when I was in trouble, and then I met this guy who called himself the Asia #1 business coach
Mm.
and was trying to give me coaching. And what happened was he squeezed me, right? And no, when you have respect for certain gurus, and when you're still young and innocent and naive, you do think that everyone who's on TV is saying the right thing. Anyone who has a book is an authority, right? So what happened was I was sold into a program which cost me I think around 30,000 ringgit. That was 30,000 ringgit of money I never have. And then what he did for me was he just got his team to do a WordPress website for me with 15 1 minute videos, and that cost me like 30,000 ringgit.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, wow, wow, I'm really down with it. And then you still step on me again. And then I had no money to pay. And then he make people come and he got people come and chase money after me. And I felt the industry was very dirty.
Mm.
And the moment I got into the training industry myself, I realized that I was pretty upset because the organizers do not look at what kind of impact you bring to your students. They do not look at how many students actually make transformation. What they really care about was right after you speak for 90 minutes,
Mhm.
the question was, what was conversion ratio?
Mm.
How much do you convert?
Yep.
How much money do you make?
Well,
And I felt,
that's the lingo. That's the lingo of the day. What I mean, everybody is looking at results, 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 and then when it comes to a crisis, people still try to cry results, and then they figure out that the biggest thing that's missing is compassion and connection. You know,
yeah,
I find that in fact, what struck me the most was when you were talking about in your webinar earlier on, not this one this morning, when you were talking about how to establish partnerships. I thought I was quite taken by that because it means you've been thinking about how partnerships actually ought to go. And obviously, based on your former experience, once bitten, twice shy, I guess, and then learning the ropes of all of business collaboration. But I figured that in a time like this, isn't it better to go back to people that you truly trust and that you've worked with before? I mean, this is not the first crisis that people have encountered. There must have been like the Asian financial crisis and so on. And what is your take on seeking partners, and how do you think about partnerships and collaborations?
how I think about partnerships is this. Truth to be told, during this whole crisis, we were very lucky. We have many partners who we worked with in the past, and then we came together during this crisis to help each other, to support each other.
Mm.
I think one thing about you having experience is it now tells you that what kind of partner you want and what kind of partner you don't want.
Mm.
Because during this period of time when people are struggling, when you create partnerships just to milk money from the market knows it. It's
Mm.
just a matter of time. They wake up and then they realize, oh my God, while I'm down, these guys still step on me.
Mm.
So what I do is I look for partners with very similar core values,
Right.
partners who are really here to give. I believe that in the training industry, the market needs more giver. People who really like to give genuinely, not to give with an intention to upsell.
Mm.
Yeah, so I feel that that's what the market truly needs, and I'm constantly looking for these kind of partners. And
Great.
these partners, really, you can find them through the things that they do rather than the things they say, right? Everyone can say anything, but you look at the way certain people do certain things, you know that the intention is right. You know that, hey, there must be a reason why they're doing this. And I like to look for partners like that who go in that to create true value for customers.
Mm. That's awesome. I think also because of that, people trust you more. I mean, it's just the nature of the business where if you care enough, then they care about how you can actually help in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So very, very useful approach. But it seems like it's very underused um, because people who are constantly looking out for new opportunities, they hardly think about these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
So for those of us who are in sort of like a challenge right now, in your case, you had a movement to pivot your business. What was going on inside your mind in terms of the nature of the pivot that you needed to take?
For me, so a bit of backstory first before I share how it works is, so what happened was I was at a period of my time when I have business owners in my community, okay? And then these guys our goal was this: how to double your business every year, either in sales, in profits, or valuation. So when the crisis came, I had to create a training for companies of various industries to pivot together. And everyone have their own strength, they have their own assets, they have their own liabilities as well. By liabilities, I mean sometimes your shops can be a liability, your talents can also be a liability. So I had to come up with a training that can save everyone. So that was really tough. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time thinking. I spent a lot of time talking to them. I really go on the ground, getting into their businesses, go into understanding how the cup manufacturer works, what determines success for them, how the whole distribution network works. I talk to the guys who own vets, own clinics, right? Get to know what are the changes in government regulations will affect them. And then from there, I think I'm very blessed because I play a very eagle eye view where I'm able to see all different businesses. And then what I did was I just created a layer on top to make sure I can come up with systems and strategies, show them that this is the map that is happening right now. You guys may not be able to do it because you guys are working in the business all the time, but because I work with all of you, I see it from this eagle eye view. So from there, I started creating frameworks. And I think I'm very blessed because God kind of blessed me with this strength where I'm able to conceptualize things. So when I start to look at different industries, I also realized there are certain companies that are doing well. And the reason why they did well was because of certain formulas.
Right.
Also notice that certain companies, why they are struggling. When I have business owners who call me late at night, like 11 p.m. and crying because the next day he have to tell his staff that they got to go. I also noticed that there's a certain pattern going on in their mind. And why are they in where they are right now?
Right.
Yeah. So from there, I started creating concepts. Yeah.
So if you could just highlight, when you say that there are certain patterns that are going on inside their mind, maybe you could just enlighten us in terms of a couple of things which are quite typical, things that they avoid or certain types of mistakes that they're making in terms of their thinking that got them there in the first place.
Bye. Okay. If there's one thing, right, I'll like to share with you is the biggest challenge and the biggest baggage that most business owners have is for most business owners, for them to get to where they are, they have worked so hard to be there, right? And then there's a certain ego that they refuse to let go.
Yeah, their baby.
So yeah. To me, it's really the ego, the number one. Number two is the fact that they felt that, hey, I spent so many years working on this, and then you mean just let it go? No, how can I let it go? Yeah, so there's a lot of one of the main reasons most business owners, I realize they're in trouble, is because they refuse to accept defeat. But sometimes you gotta just close one door so that another door can open.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that is one of the biggest challenge I notice.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. If for the audience, if you're not familiar, this is the concept known as the finite or the infinite game. So Simon Sinek recently wrote a book called The Infinite Game, and a lot of business owners forget that the business is not like a battle that you win or lose. It's continuous and it just keeps on going forever. But time and tide doesn't wait for the same business model to thrive, right? Otherwise, everybody would run a Microsoft and we'll all be very successful. Truth is that we encounter that competitive element. And because of that, we need to adapt. And I find that that's exactly the same thing that happens in the leaders that I'm coaching. Managers who have a relatively fixed mindset about things. They're not really willing to learn unless we really prod them. But one of the challenges with people who are always holding on to things is, like you say, they can't see the new possibilities. How did you develop the ability to think about possibilities and think about new, for this matter, innovative approaches to work with organizations and SMEs?
I guess there's one thing about me is I always have this primary question in my mind is every time I look at something, I always like to ask myself, how can this be done better? How can this be done in a way where we can put in less effort and get more results?
Okay.
So, yeah. So I guess it's that question in my mind of always liking to how can we challenge status quo?
Okay.
Yeah. So as my staff, right, my colleagues and all, they all find it very tiring because it's always a moving target. Yeah, they find it's always a moving target. but my customers love me because the fact is, every experience with me, they're always getting something new.
Mm.
Yeah.
But,
I always look.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm always constantly looking at how can I up my game again and again and again. And this is the reason why in my training as well, I do not even mind sharing everything. Right? Many trainers, what they like to do is they like to share a bit and then they upsell you to something else, right? And then they continue to share a bit, upsell you. And the whole program is always the same over the years. But what I like to do is I like to give you as much as I can so that I will challenge myself to go and learn more. So that next time around when I train my students, they're getting something new and it's updated contents. Yeah, it's updated insights. And because the world is now changing so fast, I firmly believe that even the training industry got to change. If the business trainers in the market is still using formulas which they have read over the years, they have to realize that in the current world, these formulas don't work anymore.
You know, it's again the thing that struck me most about what has happened in your teachings and also based on your description right now. It's all about the growth mindset. It's always about figuring out what's the next level to play at, right? Now, this becomes very difficult. I mean, for the people who've heard Kiyosaki always talking about work, don't work in the business, work on the business. I mean, it's easy to say, but it's not so easy to do because, like you say, they could be blindsided by their own ego. Now, one thing that's very difficult, and I find that most of the very successful entrepreneurs out there are able to do this. They are able to select the right team members, and they're able to drive the team members. You say that your team members feel like they are like over the top of their heads, right? How do you get to work with them in the first place? Firstly, what are your criteria? How do you move them in the direction that you want?
My criteria would be number one, mission. Are they attracted to this mission? And what does this mission mean to them? So I'm very lucky when I have entrepreneurs who are my students. Most of them are entrepreneurs. They'll call me and they say, John, how do you train your guys to reply messages at 11 p.m.? Right? And I say, no, I didn't train them. I said, it's natural because they're attracted first to that mission. The mission is about empowering entrepreneurs. And most of my team members believe this. And that's the belief that I have, which is why do we want to empower entrepreneurs is when we are able to empower an entrepreneur, we are not only changing the entrepreneur's life, not only changing his family's life, we're also changing his staff and their family's life.
Yeah.
Right. So most of my staff, my team members, my colleagues, my business partners, they all have the same mission as well. And they have the same belief. And the second thing I believe, which is very crucial, is core values.
Right.
Yeah. So at the top of my core value, we have 5. Number 1 is integrity, right? So integrity is essence of everything, is number 1. So sometimes when I come up with certain sales script, and if I tend to have any slight sense of exaggeration, my team members will actually come and tell me, right, is there any misrepresentation? Right, because you know some people, like, they probably spoke with Robert Kiyosaki before, and then they will say, Robert Kiyosaki is my business partner using that photo. They kind of exaggerate everything, right? So my team members are really always there to keep me on my toes to make sure, hey guys, our core value number 1 is integrity, and most of them they believe in that as well. That's why they get disgusted when they see sometimes the players in the industry where they misrepresent, they self-laugh. And that pisses my team members off. So that makes them actually more motivated because they want to work together in our team to be able to make a shift in the entire industry.
Okay, that's powerful because now there's actually a business model for honesty, right? Compared with many other players out there who may not actually believe in this concept. But it must be, I don't know. Firstly, you talk about a lot of business owners stumbling over their own ego, and then team members need to believe in integrity. How hard was it actually for you to take feedback? Were you able to take feedback all this while, or was there some point of time where you actually learned it the hard way, or you learned it through some really challenging moment?
I learned it through a very challenging moment, to be very frank. I learned it very tough. And that was age 30 when my business totally collapsed at the age of 30. And then I asked myself, what is one thing that is happening for me rather than happening to me? And I asked myself, what is the biggest lesson I could learn at that point of time? It was to let go of my ego and to be humble to learn. And to be humble to learn not only from the guys who are at the top, but to learn from the guys who is really doing it on the ground. Because these are the guys who know what's happening day to day. Yeah, so even let's say I talk about the simplest stuff. When you go to a hotel room and then you even want to put in your adapter to your laptop, and even that hotel man, the technician, you're gonna respect him, you're gonna learn from him as well, right? Because he probably have seen so many events happening every single day. He will tell you what are the things you want to look out for, what are the things that you want to be careful of. Yeah, so I felt that the biggest crisis of my business, which was at the age of 30, was probably the biggest gift, because it took away my ego. And it took me a long time to realize that. To be very frank, I was depressed for such a long time. And the reason why I was depressed was because I couldn't let go. I couldn't bite that defeat. And the day where I actually broke down, and I still remember I prayed and I told God, I said, I'm sorry, was the day suddenly everything was lifted and it was like a reborn. Yeah. The day when I said that, no, I'm just a nobody. I'm just here because someone gave me the gift to be here. And I prayed that. I told God, like, make me your instrument, right? Use me whatever ways possible. The day where I surrendered to that, that was the day that truly changed my life. Yeah.
That's very powerful. I think for those who have never ever encountered crisis before, do you think that it's going to hit them sooner or later then?
You know what? Sometimes I meet entrepreneurs who are egoistic, right? And they have never met a crisis before, especially the younger ones, where they, maybe not younger ones, maybe not age, but they just got into business, they achieve a bit of success, which they've never tasted ever before. You know, you can kind of spot them where more egoistic, talk a bit louder. These guys, I always feel, right, a crisis is good for them because they got to learn.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I even have, like, I meet people who I look at the way they talk, so egoistic, and I do spot that certain things are wrong. No, I do share my thoughts, but they don't buy it because for them is everything is doing well. Why must I listen to you, right? My view is let them go through a crisis. They need it. Yeah.
Yeah, so this basically means that you're talking about being forged by crisis, where crisis is like the fire to the very dirty steel, the iron that has not been really folded yet. And once you're able to, generate the heat, and then it becomes a stronger blade eventually once you smash out all the impurities, which I think is a fascinating analogy, because then the whole idea of what 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Always sharpen your sword, sharpen your saw, right? I think that comes and that rings true very powerfully. So when you built this team, you got Owner Circle, right? Is there a place where people can get to know Owner Circle?
Yep, you guys can check us out on our website, ownercircle.asia, or you can check it out on our Facebook. Just type Owner Circle, we'll be there. Owner Circle. Yeah.
So it's
mainly on our website, on our Facebook. Yeah. Owner Space Circle. Yeah, on Facebook. Yeah. Ownercircle.asia. That's our website. Yeah.
Okay, let me just type that into the comments in Facebook in case you guys have the opportunity to actually work with or join the Owner Circle. John first started off with quite a number of entrepreneurs in Malaysia, but he's also touched the lives of quite a number of Singaporean entrepreneurs as well. So case studies galore. I'm talking about people who've pivoted their event business from, nobody ever plans for 100%, a scenario where you got 100% revenue completely destroyed, right? Completely decimated. Yeah. But there are people who, because of that, look for Jonathan's assistance and then straight away pivoted to easy 5 figures, 6 figures return. And I say easy, not necessarily because it's easy, but because people actually were willing to listen in the first place, right? And then take action on it. We've got solopreneurs, we've got people in F&B business, we've got people in the, even some who are in logistics, who are already doing quite well, but then they still come to you. But what would
Yeah.
you say is your favorite industry to work with, John?
I wouldn't say it's a favorite industry, but it's the favorite entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Yeah, because industry-wise, every industry is so different. It's exciting to be able to touch a bit of everything. And then very often my biggest value is because sometimes I take a certain model that works in a certain industry and put it into another industry.
Right.
Right. So that's really my strength. But really it's the type of entrepreneurs I love most are those who have a lot of resources, very successful yet very humble.
Mm.
And it's such a humbling experience to talk to these people because they teach me something as well. Yeah. And because they have that kind of resources, it's so easy for us to get things done. Sometimes just by a few calls, that idea will work. Yeah.
So the purpose of Owner Circle, as far as I know, is to establish a community that is strong enough to be able to tap into some of these resources, but benefit everybody win-win so that we can all scale. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. We are building a community of entrepreneurs, like-minded entrepreneurs who have the vision to be the next market leaders of their respective industries.
Actually, that's quite scary for some people, isn't it? To become market leaders. Because to them, it's like, okay, I'm safe in this comfort zone, and then now I have to go. And it seems like this whole fear of pivoting and getting to into a new business direction also can scare people quite a fair bit. What would you say in your case? I'm pretty sure you encountered some uncertainty, some fear, right? How did you cope with that? How do you deal with that?
The biggest value for Owner Circle and how we handle that is the community, is the environment. Because I learned it at a very young age where I play squash, right? I come from Johor, JB. When you keep playing with the guys in your state, right, that's the kind of standard you have. But if you try to play with the best players in the country, which is from Penang, right, just go there and stay for a week. Suddenly you realize your level of squash improves. And that's what happened to me, right? I was born in JB, bred in JB. That's why I know Singapore so well. And,
oh, you know Singapore very well because we keep going over to JB to buy your stuff.
Yeah. And also because I was working in Singapore for 5 years. So a bit backstory was when I was young, I still remember when I played squash, there was 1 week. My coach made me stay in Penang for 1 week. And just 1 week was all it took. The moment I came back, my level of squash improved drastically. And it was really because the people I was hanging out with. So I'm a firm believer that content is one thing, but it's really the community that sets the difference. It's the environment. So the light will always attract the light. Our community will always attract people who are like-minded. They want to be the next market leaders. They want to add tremendous value to the community. They want to solve meaningful problems and build a large scale out of it. That's the kind of people we attract. So I would say that we always attract these kind of people. Even those who are scared, they want to be in because they want the vibe. You know, your vibe attracts your tribe. So the vibe, the positive energy where you have people who are sharing on our private Facebook page where, you know what, I just closed a $500,000 deal and I'm so happy I'll share with everyone. And you'll be impressed, like, how the hell you close $500,000 events company at this point of time, right? So it opens up the whole possibility that, wow, there's so many things that can be done. Yeah, so what I'm really doing here is I'm the steward of this community. I'm building the entire context, the rules of the game, the culture of the game. And then it's really the members of the community that brings this entire environment up.
No, I really like that idea. It reminds me of the story of the crabs in the marketplace. You know, you put them inside the basket and then they'll just pull each other down. Whereas in this case, it's everybody helps to support each other. It becomes a win-win environment. I think that's awesome. It's very difficult to see a place or at least a visionary leader who's willing to do something like that, because sometimes it also adds to the burden of a lot of things. So what do you find are challenges with working with such people in general? I don't think it's a walk in the park, right? Otherwise, everybody will be doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest challenge is many people are still, not many, but some people, they still prefer the shortcuts, right? They like the fact that you tell them, hey, guess what? You just take more awards and then the brand of your company your brand exposure will increase and then people perceive your brand differently. And some people love that. They just feel like, hey, good, but I just pay $30,000, I get an award, and then I'm seen differently. But is that really the case? The question is it really the case? Right? Because the fact is, yes, you may look prestigious, but if you still deliver shit, you're gonna have a bad branding at the end of the day. Yeah.
Well,
So
I don't know whether that is because people had, I don't know, maybe too much money to spend or what. But 30,000, you know, I've seen some of those awards. I've been approached as well. But would you say that even financial prudence is actually a critical skill that some of these business owners may kind of like stumble over? You know, it's to them it's like, because you know, not all business owners are into the numbers, right? They don't keep track. Would you say that that's also a stumbling block?
I think it's not financial prudence, you know, because some of them, they are willing to pay 30,000 to take an award, but they're not willing to pay $300 to attend a class. So I think it's really a matter of core values and priority. What matters to them? Yeah.
You pay you pay the so-called what's that phrase called? Penny wise and pound foolish. So I suppose that maybe that also factors into the ego thing, because they're spending money for things that they don't really need, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I can start to get a picture of the type of people that you already attract because of what you're saying right now. And I think for the viewers and the listeners, the whole prospect of meeting with people and modeling after them, asking them questions, I suspect that this kind of a conversation is what you have with other entrepreneurs, other business owners. It's very refreshing. You drop a few knowledge bombs. And because all of you are sort of like, in a sense, experts in your own field, one idea from someplace else actually cross-pollinates with the idea that you already have, and then it becomes much bigger. But, okay, so John, do you say that you are more of an introvert or an extrovert?
With close friends, extrovert, yeah. But outside, when I go events, when I go networking sessions, no, I hardly even go networking sessions, because that's not where I do well.
So, okay, so that's a very good point. A lot of people say, oh, I need, you know, they say the network determines your net worth, all that kind of thing, right? But then they say, I don't like to network. I prefer to sit back alone, you know, do my own thing. So what's the gap that they need to fill in order to be able to, like in your case, you obviously network with top-notch entrepreneurs, and based on your credentials, it's no longer just SMEs anymore, right? Even the big boys, the big restaurants, all these are also coming to you. So how does that happen? And seriously, how do you talk to them? What's your mindset in establishing a connection with people who may be like, you know, they are so far ahead. They maybe 40 years of experience in business, maybe running $100 million business, 200 million US business, and so on. What is your approach to working with people like that?
So there are few of the big companies who I have the privilege to train. Interestingly, some of them are actually my mentors. Some of them are actually my mentors. And what happened was, when I was still very young in business, I will go around. If I see an entrepreneur who is doing something right with the kind of core values that I believe in, I will go and approach that person and I say, can I have coffee? If you can buy you coffee, can I learn from you? Right? Can you just give me 1 hour of your time? And that's what I did. And doing this, so what happened was, I still remember 10 years ago when I was leaving Singapore to come back to Malaysia to start my first business, this guy who owns this brand called Manhattan Fish Market. Yeah, you guys probably know him. Yeah, Malaysian guy. I respect him. I love his food. I used to go to his place a lot. Used to, because he sold his business already. I kind of went to him. I told him, you know, can you mentor me? You know, can you learn from me? He said, no, I'm not going to mentor. I don't do all this stuff. I said, can I have coffee with you at least once a month? Yeah. So then he didn't give me that time. But what happened was, I later on realized that he loved to play squash. So I told him, the next time you play squash, can you call me along? Yeah. So that after we play, when he's tired, he's resting, I'll ask him a lot of questions. So I probably had a window of opportunity of like 10 to 15 minutes every week to ask a question. Okay. So I think one thing about me is I'm very eager to learn. I'm every time I see something successful, I want to know what makes it successful. So I go to these people to learn from them. So what happened was, in the recent months, the word got out there that I created this program called Crisis Innovation Strategy. So he sold off Manhattan, and he bought ENW. So, uh, so he bought ENW recently. Yeah. So word got out there that I was doing something right, and then he called me one day and he said, "John, heard you are doing this. Can you train my guys?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, that is okay. So I won't call it a strategy. I think it's part of character. It's also part of the growth mindset that you are imbued with. But I think listeners of this particular video must recognize that the person whom you are 10 years ago is not going to be the same 10 years later. And everybody is a moving target, especially if there are people whom you respect. They're likely to continue to go higher and higher unless something major happens to them, right? But the truth of the matter is that as they continue to go higher or they go elsewhere, and they remember a good experience of you, that is where the network expands. I think very few people understand this. The other day when we were chatting on Facebook, you were mentioning certain things about pivoting, and I said very hard to pivot a network, right? And even up to today, I believe that's true. The pivot for network it feels very pretentious. I see a lot of people trying to do that. Oh, let's network because we can establish this. And I think my ground philosophy has always been that if we want to establish goodwill, then don't really expect the returns lah. You just make good friends. If you can help. If you can't really help, maybe your network can help. If they can connect, good lah. If they can't connect, then maybe it's fated, right? Be the tool of the universe or of God, as you may say. Which brings me to the point on it's a quote that I remember from a very long time ago. Be careful how you treat people on your way up, because you'll never know who you'll meet on your way down.
So remember, I was talking about this mentor of mine who owned Manhattan and right now own ENW.
Yeah.
This was one of the things he told me when I was starting to do well. I still remember this. We were in Indonesia, and I saw the way he treated waiters, and I was very impressed.
Right.
And I say, wow. I said, you treat people you don't know, who mean nothing to you, and you treat them well. And he gave me this quote, and I remember the way he looked at me and he said, John, now that you're on your way up, be nice to everyone while you're on your way up, because you never know who you have to meet while you're on your way down. And I remember that quote with me, and I was very lucky. He told me that quote just at the start of my career when I was starting to pick up. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Huh? So we got some synchronicity going on here. Very good. So for those of you who are on live with me, great, go and check out Jonathan's Owner Circle. It's owners-circle.asia. Check it out. If you feel so inclined to join his program, just to let you know, I've joined the program. Okay, no holds barred. Not just because the exchange rate is very good, okay? But primarily because if you just take a look at the amount of effort that's taken to think about this, you see, you can find a strategist who uses past templates and then tries to apply it on everything, right? I don't see this as the case. I see this as a very concerted effort to make old experience fresh again, and to fit it in with the right kind of context and the right kind of environment. Otherwise, we'll all be doing the same thing. It's like, okay, you go and set up a blog, or you go and do YouTube videos or something like that. But it's not like a business model. It's a way of thinking. So what would you say would be the secret sauce for those who have actually gone for the Crisis Innovation workshop that you run, or the webinar series that you run, that enables them to succeed quickly? What would you say would be the secret ingredient for that?
I guess the secret ingredient is perspective. If you look at the members in Owner Circle, they all recognize the fact that this crisis is not going to be the next 1 to 2 months. It's going to be 3 months, or probably 6 to 18 months. They're very clear about that, right? Nothing to hide. All of them know that it's going to be a crisis. However, they're excited because they also recognize that in every crisis, this is a reset button. And this is the opportunity for us, because the big boys are going to collapse. Not all of them, most of them. And this means if you're small right now, you have an advantage. Your advantage is you can move fast, you are quick, right? If you are quick, right? So this is your opportunity to become big, right? Doing this reset button. So most of them are excited because they know that this is their time, right? We don't get such opportunities often in life. So this is their time. So the first perspective is opportunity in crisis. The second perspective that they are very clear is this: you're not going to attend a 3 days class and you change your life. No way, right? If I will tell you, anyone out there, attend my 3 days class, you change your life, I'm bullshitting you. It's impossible. But what happens is you have to recognize that the 3 days is just a beginning. It's a shift of mindset. Um, it's for you to be a part of this community who will be constantly looking at how to innovate. What's the best practices to innovate? Because innovation is going to be constant, moving ahead. Rules will change, government rules will change, Facebook rules will change. Just one simple change in Facebook rules, your entire marketing plan changes, right? So many things are going to change. So the second perspective that I believe they are going to be very different, the members of Owner Circle, is they recognize that innovation will be constant. And what I'm giving them is tools, I'm giving them training, I'm giving them to be a part of a tribe who all recognize this. Yeah, so you become who you play with at the end of the day. And these are the kind of people we want to play with.
On top of that, there's something very special about what you said, which is that there's always this opportunity in crisis. You can grow big during this particular crisis. What were some of the things that shaped your thinking to get you to think this way?
I firmly believe, right, in business, all you need is that one big break. Probably not only in business, in life also. Yeah. Very often is you just need that one big break, and then what will happen is it will elevate you to the next level, and your entire game plan will change. And then you got to recognize that what has gotten you here can never get you there. And then you got to relearn everything again, unlearn and relearn everything again, and then you got to move to the next level. So that's what I believe, and I'm seeing it right now. The fact that many entrepreneurs are panicking, it also means that if you are that 10% or that top 20% who is not panicking, you are constantly strategic focused, you're solution focused. This is your time. This is your opportunity.
What advice would you give to people who are not yet entrepreneurs, but they've always been thinking at the back of their head, is this a better time to start during this crisis period, or should I postpone it until times are better?
My question would be, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to just be an entrepreneur because you think that this is a glamorous thing to do? Or when you post on social media, say you're an entrepreneur, you think it elevates your status, then that's the wrong thing to be. Then that's the wrong reason to be an entrepreneur. I believe what is most important is your why. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Yeah, what is the problem in the society that you see that nobody is doing it right, and you want to come in to solve a meaningful problem, and then you'll make money at the same time, right? Because I'm not asking you to just do good and don't make money, because you got to do good and you got to be profitable. That's how you become an entrepreneur. So to me, is what is most important is what's your why. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Yeah, I've seen too many people who become entrepreneurs just because it's a cool thing to do, and then they die, and then they wonder why the hell did they become an entrepreneur in the first place.
And they didn't know what
because the intention is really wrong.
All right.
Yeah, just because you hate your boss doesn't mean you should be an entrepreneur.
Actually, that's a very good point. I like what you said. Just because you hate your boss doesn't mean you need to be an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah,
because it is maybe a sign of your own weakness, right? You don't like that guy. It may be your problem. So you haven't even ironed that. Then you want to go and become other people's boss. Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Fascinating,
yeah.
I
So
mean,
my ads, yeah, I feel you funny. Yeah.
So this entire crisis seems to have given even more perspective, isn't it? I think those who have not gone through such a major, we're talking about over 500 million people infected. That's unprecedented in our history as far as we know. Of course, we didn't have that many people back then, but the idea of such a global scale crisis, and of course, we know that some kind of other critical crisis event will take place sometime in our lifetime. May or may not be as damaging, but we see people who are thriving, right? We see people who are doing very well, but that's also because they are actively holding on to the pulse of the situation. It's not just like, oh, okay, this is a crisis, so this is what I do. It's not so cookie cutter. They study the trends. You, just like yourself, you're observing things that are happening on the back end. People tell you what what troubles they're facing. You think about it. You apply the innovation mindset. You have actually another boon that you have is a team that's able to help to scale the idea quickly, which I know a lot of entrepreneurs have to learn to do, including myself. And subsequently, to be able to just keep that door open, the non-egoistic mind to listen to anyone from any industry, and accept that maybe this could be an alternative way rather than just shutting down the possibilities immediately. Now, okay, we've gone about 15 minutes on this. I think it's very fascinating to see the mindset and the way of thinking surrounding it. And therefore, I will definitely encourage anybody who's an entrepreneur, who wants to become an entrepreneur, go join Owner Circle, go find out more about the Crisis Innovation Strategy Workshop, and utilize that to your own advantage, right? So at this juncture, John, do you have any sort of like a parting words? Because I know you're a very busy man, so I really appreciate the time that you've given for myself, my tribe. Are there any parting words for those who are attempting to circumvent this crisis at this point of time?
My parting words would be this. I think at the end of the day, right, this, we have to recognize the brutal truth is it's not easy to be an entrepreneur at this point of time, especially if you have team members, if you have families, right? Things is not easy for yourself. It's not easy for them either. And very often, being the leader of the business, their problem is also your problem. So that's why I always say it's not easy to be a leader. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur. But what really keeps me alive during my worst time in crisis was the emotion of gratitude. Recognizing that the fact that there's something to live for, recognizing the fact that there's still a lot of good things that's happening in your life, that's the key. Yeah, so for everyone who's listening over here, I know time is tough right now, but you want to recognize that you still have your family members with you. You still have your team members who are there to fight. No, they're facing challenges as well with their family, but they are there to fight the battle with you. You gotta recognize that. You gotta recognize that there's people like Stuart coming to do a Facebook Live together, right? To organize this, to give you amazing content, to give you amazing insights. End of the day, gratitude is the ultimate attitude. Yeah. So powerful. I hope that everyone will, if there's one takeaway is, in times of crisis, it's more important than ever to be grateful for whatever you have.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think what you have mentioned, technically, a lot of people who would claim that, oh, I've heard that somewhere before. I mean, knowledge does not equal to practice. What you know is not always put into action. So this is probably a good time to take some form of concerted action towards your growth, towards your learning, towards your own emotions, self-care. I always preach about self-care. Small, simple things actually go a very, very long way. So those of you who've heard me talk about people like James Clear, about atomic habits, the power of the 1%. Sometimes it just is that 1%, that one singular move that can move that needle in favor of your actions. And that's actually all that you need. So we've, as far as I'm concerned, I think this is a in-depth insight into your mind, Jonathan. Thank you very much for being here. And I know that you have other things to prepare for, so I won't hold you back. I wish I had full 2, 3, 4 days to to pick your brain and then to expose it to the world. But we'll probably have other opportunities to do that. Yeah. So thank you once again very much. And for those of you who would like to reach out to Jonathan, once again, head down to Owner Circle, go reach out to him, and he's going to be an asset for your growth if you're an entrepreneur or planning to be one. So in the meanwhile, enjoy yourselves. Hope you have a wonderful week ahead. And until the next time we meet on the COG platform, this is Stuart Tan, your host for this particular interview. I look forward to seeing you guys and answering your questions very, very soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye.